the Aburi Accord had been implemented the way it was discussed in Aburi in Ghana, here are the 11 things that will not happen. Like these 11 things I'm about to mention will not be recorded in history. Share this video so that other people will learn, and watch this video to the very end. Then put more things that you think that will not happen if the Aburi Agreement had been implemented the way it was discussed in Ghana. Without wasting time, let's jump in. Number one thing that wouldn't have happened if the Aburi Accord had been implemented the way it was discussed in Ghana is the creation of states. If states would have been created, it wouldn't have been the time it was created. But states, the first batch of states that were created was on May 27th in 1967. But I think, and I want to also know whether you think the same, if the Aburi Accord had been implemented the way it was discussed in Ghana on the 4th and 5th of January of 1967, do you think states would have still been created in the time that it was created? That was the first thing I thought. Number two thing that wouldn't have happened if the Aburi Accord had been implemented the way it was discussed is that the governor of the eastern region at the time wouldn't have declared secession. In other words, there wouldn't have been anything called Biafra. Do you think the same? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Number three thing that would not happen if the Aburi Agreement had been implemented the way it was discussed is that the civil war that happened in Nigeria at the time that it happened wouldn't have happened. Do you think the same? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Number four is that all the money, all the huge sums of millions, probably billions that were spent to persecute that civil war from the federal side and even from the secessionist side, all those huge amounts of money that was spent wouldn't have been spent. Rather, less than 10% would have been given to the former eastern region so that they can use that money to tackle their problems. And these people that had that problems were still Nigerians. So if the Aburi Accord had been implemented the way it was discussed on the 4th and 5th of January, the federal military government at the time wouldn't have spent that much more amount of money to persecute any war because there wouldn't be any war in the first place. The fifth thing that wouldn't have happened if the Aburi Accord had been implemented the way it was discussed in January of 1967 is that the premature currency change that happened in January of 68 would not have happened, because that currency, that Nigerian pounds that was changed in January of 68 was exactly the one that was introduced in 1965. That was 3 years, 68 to 65. That was in a gap of 3 years. The currency is being changed again. So if the Aburi Accord had been implemented that way, the way it was discussed in January 4th and 5th of 1967, there wouldn't have been a currency change. The federal government wouldn't have spent a huge amount of money to change its currency again in that period in time. Number 6 is that all the infrastructure that was destroyed, both on the federal side and on the Biafran side, all the infrastructures that were destroyed, the schools, the hospitals, whatever you can count, wouldn't have been destroyed. All those structures would have been intact, and Nigeria would have found a way to move itself forward by building new structures to accommodate the increasing population at the time. And of course, number 7 is all the people that were unalived during that conflict wouldn't have happened. All of them will still be alive to fulfill what their destiny has been written for them in the stars. Number 18 that wouldn't have happened if the Aburi Accord has been implemented the way it was discussed was that the wartime inflation that gripped the nation at that point in time between 67 and 1970, the inflation that gripped the country wouldn't have happened because there wouldn't have been a civil war to be fought in the first place. The 9th thing that wouldn't have happened if the Aburi Agreement had been implemented the way it was discussed was that the Firearms Decree number 22 that was promulgated in 1971 wouldn't have happened in the first place. Now, on another day, I will make a separate video to explain what this decree number 22 means, the Firearms Decree of 1971. I will make a video to explain that. But that decree wouldn't have happened if that Aburi agreement had been implemented the way it was discussed at that point in time. Number 10 thing that would not happen if the Aburi agreement had been implemented the way it was discussed was that the decree that brought the NYSC into being wouldn't have happened. In other words, the NYSC, the National Youth Service Corps, wouldn't have been created in 1973. And number 11 is that by 1970 or 71, the Nigerian government would have returned to civilian rule. These 11 things will not happen if the Aburi agreement had been implemented the way it was agreed on the 4th and 5th of January of 1967. Do you think the same things, or do you disagree with me? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. Know your history.